Welcome in, beautiful souls. Welcome into Awakening Truths Make Up Your Power podcast live. We are on day 18 of 30. My co host is on her way in. I am so excited because tonight we are talking about things that never get talked about, and it's all things taboo. So, tonight the reference is sex. We are talking about sex, but intentional, embodiment, tantra, sexual energy. That's the conversation. And where in past times it has been used to disempower some to empower others. I just saw you pop up on TikTok, T, so I just kind of shared that on you with you there.
I'm not even on TikTok.
Oh, well, I just saw purposeful transitions on there. I'm not seeing you on Facebook yet still.
I'm
Welcome
getting
in.
there.
Please comment down below where you're watching in from because I'm not able to tell. Oh, there you are.
We got you back on your yesterday.
I'm gonna go approve.
Not seeing you on Facebook yet still. Welcome in. Please comment down below where you're watching in from because I'm not able to tell. Oh, there you are. In purposeful. I'm gonna go approve. It's gonna deny me. Yep, connection failed.
Ah, dang.
And
Got
then
him. That just went to the floor.
unable to add. Oh,
Welcome in, beautiful
got
souls.
him.
Welcome in. I just threw you on the table. So we're just getting into the conversation.
That just
Look, I
went
even
to
got the
the
red lighting for
floor.
chakra.
Welcome in, beautiful souls.
Trying to
Welcome
get
in.
Tina
I
to come
just threw
in
you on
through
the
her
table.
Takowitz and not purposeful
So we're
transitions,
just
so it
getting
doesn't
into
work
the
when it does that.
conversation. Look, I even got the red lighting for chakra.
Welcome in.
You want me to switch
Trying to
over?
get Tina to come
In a minute
in
before we
through.
get started. Coconut cream pie. Yum. What is everybody doing today? Welcome to day 18 of 30 of Awakening Truths Make Up Your Power podcast. Tonight, we will be talking about sex, but in a new way, in a different way, more about sexual energy, about tantra sex, about intentional intimacy, about embodiment. That is what we will be talking about tonight. I am just waiting for Tina to get in. Welcome, welcome in on TikTok. Welcome in. Tonight we are having the conversation
Wait, what?
on Awakening Truths for day 18.
We got you back on your yesterday. Welcome in. Tonight we are having the
I can try to
conversation on Awakening Truths for day 18.
see, then I echo. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, no, it's still doing it from purposeful. It's going to deny, it's not going to take it.
I can try
to do it from Takowitz.
See, then I echo. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, no, it's still doing it from purposeful. It's going to deny
Welcome
I-
in, beautiful
and I
souls. Welcome
just
in
put
there
it-
with
I
us,
just
please.
put it-
It needs to do
I
it
see you
from
guys
Takowitz.
joining.
And can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit on here, but you're echoing, so I've got to turn the volume off because it's. But then I'm not going to be able to.
Welcome in,
communicate
beautiful
with you.
souls. Welcome in. Bear with us, please. I see you guys joining.
Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Trying to get Tina on here.
This is fucking ridiculous.
Welcome in, beautiful souls. Tonight we are talking about sexual energy. We're going to be talking about tantra sex. And what do you guys know about when I asked that question?
Because
Sexual
tonight
energy. What are the
we're
first thoughts
talking
that come
about
to
things
mind?
that never get talking about sexual energy. We're going to be talking about tantra sex. And what do you guys know about
Sorry, guys,
when
for
I
the
asked that
echo.
question? Sexual energy.
Apologies.
What are the first thoughts that come
Yes,
to
T,
mind?
that's what we needed. There we go. Now we're going to get her. Now we're going to get her, everybody. Here she is. Welcome in.
Hello.
Looks like you made it.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Yep. Yay, welcome in, everybody, from TikTok, from Facebook, from YouTube. We're on day 18 of 30 of going live every night from 7 to 8 p.m. talking about stuff that isn't normalized and normalizing the conversation because why not? And tonight we are going to go live. We're going to go deep into talking about sexual energy, tantra sex, intentional intimacy, and embodiment. The thought line is simple, just sex is a powerful thing. Your body tells the truth. It's a conscious connection that creates safety. Without unconscious connection, you can create confusion. I'm very big on talking about this. I believe as a Scorpio too, that our sexual energy is our one of our superpowers in order to manifest. And if we all got a history, okay, everybody, but when we have multiple sexual partners or we're just connecting with, sexually with partners, we have to understand that an energetic cord happens there. So you can then inadvertently take on something that that person is meant to experience because you've not now tied in sexually with them, energetically with them. Does that make sense? Because everything's energy.
I don't know if I followed it. I know what you're saying. I know where you're going with it. I just don't know that I followed it. Is there anybody in the room?
There are a couple people on.
Did
Feel free to
anybody,
comment down below.
did anybody else connect with that phrase?
So when connecting with people, it's important that we're mindful of who we're connecting our sexual energy with, because if we're not being intentional with the energy that we're using, then we're not using good manifesting energy that we can use to kind of create a life that we're wanting to move forward with. Hold on. There's like a little echo thing that's happening. Yeah, so I'm trying to like set everything up just right. Okay, well, does anybody believe that sex is not just physical? That it's emotional, energetic, spiritual, relational?
I would say yes. I don't know that in every form you just mentioned. I don't know if I could connect in every form. But
In which ones?
Well, you have spirituality and you have energy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
Emotional and relational.
So emotional. I think relational to me is more than just the physical side of things.
Absolutely.
So I would say 3 of those would resonate, and then it would get you there, but I would have to connect physically, emotionally in that sense before I'm ready to just take it down that path.
Well,
Especially
have you ever found yourself, if you were, say, in a place where your viewpoints on sex were more like you're in a relationship and you're like, you're not feeling it because maybe you're not feeling your body or you're not really feeling powerful about yourself, but you're in a relationship, so you almost feel like you're trying to
it's forced.
have sex to try to be that partner, and then it's almost just like there's such a coldness around it, right? So
It's a forced effort. It's not, there's no meaning to it. Therefore, there's no connection. There's no energy. It's just, I hate to say it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, right? Like, you just don't have that connection.
right, and it's almost like it would almost seem like it'd be a chore more than anything, but the disconnection there, now, does that come from the partner or does that come from a lack of intimacy within yourself?
I think it could be either or. I think you can be physically attracted to someone and it not actually connect in the sexual space. It just doesn't happen, and then you could be drawn into something or someone because you felt that chemistry, that energy towards them. And then I don't know, Nicole, what are your thoughts? I'd like to see
No,
some
just-
comments. Stephanie in here? Stephanie, start hyping up here.
Welcome in, everybody. We're talking about sex. It makes Tina uncomfortable, but we're Scorpios. We're supposed to talk about this stuff because the more that we can have a safe space, even if we're using humor with it, right? It's still important to talk about this stuff because it is a very big feel-good energy, right? Or it has been used at times to not feel good. And I guess I just want this space to be like where we're into our bodies and we're identifying, between the two. And also when it's a beautiful thing to contain the sexual energy, maybe not full force go all in, but how you can creatively use that sexual energy, like people do beautiful music, right? Or painting, like utilizing sexual energy that way instead of the wham bam thank you ma'ams, because what those wham bam thank you ma'ams inadvertently does is brings energetic interceptions, I like to say. It's like, because think about if you're in the bed with a spouse or somebody that you're with and y'all are always not getting along with each other. Like you guys are fighting, y'all should probably be separating at this time, but you guys are still sharing the same bed. You sleeping in that energy and being next to that energy like that, because we kind of go out like 8 feet, our energy field too. So when you're in that, you're in their energy as well, and they're in yours. Now, so you're taking on anything that they're not working through, not healing, any anxieties, like you will inadvertently start to take that on and vice versa. So is there a point when something like that happens that is it normal to kind of step back and go in a separate bed? There's a how do we have the conversation there?
I think there are a lot of things I can go.
You got comments? Because I don't see any.
Yeah, Stephanie said, I think there are a lot of things that can cause it to be a chore or a duty. Whether it's an inner connection or an emotional connection to a person is also much more than a physical connection. Yes, and I feel that with men sexually, they have been kind of like, they have a release that they must do and that they need more often, that, and women are more emotional creatures, right? So we feel more into the sexual experience. And from my own experience, I've noticed that if I am not feeling the most secure, powerful within, then I would almost look at it as either a chore or like dirty in a way that I don't know how to explain it.
Sinful.
Like giving in, or right, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I want to make sure that I go about it because I want to say it's been my experiences, but realizing that it's not so much the person, it's more so how I was feeling inside. And again, back to the conversations, because I wasn't raised talking about this or about the feelings that your body gets.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not the topic of sex that I'm uncomfortable with. It's the fact that my entire life you don't talk about sex. So it's not even that it's an uncomfortable conversation for me. It was just how we grew up. But I don't know where I would say it's ever been a chore. I think Stephanie used that word.
So I think there are a lot of things that can cause it to be a chore or a duty.
So, it feels more like it's a responsibility. It's like I have to do this because either the pressure I'm getting from my partner, or I just think it's what I have to do in a relationship. I may not even be educated in the relationship to know that you don't have to have sex so many times a week, right? I think this is just another one of those topics that has such labels attached to it that it's not one that I've ever really put a lot of thought into. It's an action, it's a private action, and you either feel something or you don't.
Okay.
That's the way it was for me. Right? Like that's where we came from in our day and age, and you certainly didn't talk about it because it was so taboo, and it wasn't that it was inappropriate, they just labeled it with shame.
Mm-hmm. shame, put guilt around it. Like even around the bodies, right? Like menstrual cycles, all the hormones and everything, or what everybody goes through. Not having those conversations are very confusing, especially because you're thinking like, does my body is my body like looking the right way, or these are things that me growing up that I had, like, why does my body look this way, or why do I get feelings like this? And for a long time I had challenges with my sexual energy, and realizing that I was draining my life force with it. I even had a time period too where I escaped a lot. And that's another thing. Like when we're having sex, it's important. You would like to have it be more, present. You want to be more present in it, so it doesn't feel like it's, transactional. But with, we'll say porn and adult videos and stuff like that, the ways in which that expresses sexual energy, it looks more to be very not mutilating, but you know what I mean? Like where there's a disempowerment there, and there's a dirtiness about it, and there's this rough, but in reality, divine feminines, there's a softness about it that because we're emotional, physical beings, that plays an intricate role. But if we're having our preteens or our teens learning their sexual nature through these types of videos and stuff online, then are we doing more harm than good by not just simply having the taboo conversation with them?
Well, so let's talk about the porn situation. So we back in the day, it was not a conversation you had very often around anybody that you could trust or open up to. You either learned it through cultural beliefs or fear-based education. God, being mortified in like junior high school with learning how to put a condom on a banana. Your religious messaging and peer pressure, and now TV. So instead of showing up with the questions we're afraid to ask, we just internalized it that it was our secret.
A great way to look at that. You're right. Because for a long time, and that's what's interesting how you say that, because for a long time, I believe even with with other unhealthy habits, whether it was like the food or substances or stuff like that, I think it was a matter of that. Like, this is just my little secret. I show up for the whole world for everything else. But when it's a secret of shame and it becomes guilt and stuff like that, that's where I was like, there's almost that disconnect in that wall, because then with my partner, I believe I'm inadvertently feeling that secret, that guilt, that shame almost being exposed a little bit. So I want to draw back. I love this reflection that we're having right now as we're talking. This is
Well, and I think what I failed to tie the porn into that is I think that's why people lean into porn, because they can do this in a private setting without another partner in most cases, right? So if there's a self-confidence issue, but there's still this need, they're sacrificing themselves to a very different kind of connection versus making a real connection with an individual.
right, and almost creating more of that secret, because then if you try to make that connection with the individual, there might be things that you learn that might be a little difficult for the partner to want to get involved in, because porn is so much more extreme or fantasy like than, and that could be a hard turn for men to kind of see the softer side. Like, still, you could still be very, very passionate and present, and that's why even tantra sex, what's beautiful is that you're sitting in the energy more than just physical touch. It's like you're energetically kind of feeling into it, and there's something real powerful in that I feel stays with you longer too. But with porn, the thing on the energetic level that I want to tie into this too is that what happens is that because our sexual energy, it can be so powerful for us when we are are not being intentional with what we're doing with our experience of our climax, we're inadvertently sending that power to something that is in a way can be lower vibrational, especially with some of that. You know what I mean? With the whole process of it. So that another thing I wanted to share with trying to be more mindful and through my own personal experiences, I share too with this.
Yeah. So where's Brian in this conversation?
Listen in the background.
Yes, he's got nothing to type, or did he type and I didn't see it because I can't see the comments?
Dave, you got anything to say? Baby, about what we're talking about. He wasn't paying attention.
He was paying attention. He's just being shy because he doesn't ever shut up.
What a convenient night. Did not. I'm just kidding. Oh my god. See, now you're gonna get him going, and here we are. Here we are. So, okay. So one of the things I wanted to mention: intentional sex means choosing with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet, knowing your yes and knowing your no. That's another big one because a lot of times you can be in the heat of the moment. Maybe the person, you had a few drinks or something like that, or maybe, you don't feel comfortable with how you want to respond. So keeping yourself and your body in the known, like, are you pulling back from this energy? Are you leaning into the energy? That works with decision making all the time.
So when you think about that, it's not about the consent, because consent is could be fear driven, right? Based off of how you're going to respond to this individual. It's about respect and respect for your own body. So being able to get over that fear and know that it's okay to say no, walk away, do whatever it is. Because what you really want to do is you really want to create a space for two people communicating clearly, honestly, without pressure, even from the outside world. Never mind just inside between the two of them, right?
Yep. If you can't have the comfort, if you can't communicate the conversation about sex, I truly feel at this stage of the game, you're not ready to have it.
I actually think people now that we're talking about it, the way I don't know how sex education is taught these days in this day and age, but it's almost as if they should remove the how to and the why to a conversation around self-respect, physical feelings, emotions. What's the difference between being physically attracted to having an emotional connection and dating someone that you really like and that you trust, but also knowing what your pace is?
Exactly. Absolutely well said. Yeah, and in that, huh?
Do they still do sex education at school?
I'm pretty right. They still do sex ed. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you guys talk about? He doesn't have it yet.
Oh. That's a good answer.
Sorry about the echo. This is a pretty. I've always tried to be very vocal with the kids, so that way they always felt comfortable being able to talk about anything that they're curious about or want to know. Because to be honest with you, social media is fast and it shares a lot of stuff, and if they don't know how to check in with their bodies, then they don't know what actually resonates and what's subliminally tying them into something that might not be healthy for them.
Well, and I think the TV shows these days, I've been shocked at. I think I've gotten over the initial shock, but I have been surprised over the years as to how much more visible the sex appears in a movie or a show. Like it I don't want to say it bothered me at first, but I had to get used to it because, again, being brought up the way I was brought up, I was always like, no, you don't watch that. You're not gonna watch that on TV. But now it's in basically every show you watch.
But see, that's the thing though. Is that okay to normalize something to that extent? Because in reality, you've got people who are technically complete strangers that are getting very intimate. And they're even now making it to where now men are going full nude, which I believe that if you're going to fully sexualize a woman to keep it balanced, then you should fully sexualize a man. That's just how I kind of look about that. Oh my God. What about drunk sex? Is there really any connection when you're picking up someone from a bar?
So
Well, okay, so you, Tina?
I'll say if you're picking up somebody from a bar, no. But if you're out with a bunch of friends and you have some kind of a connection with someone, the alcohol lessens the inhibition and makes you drawn to them to be a little more honest about how you're feeling. You might become more flirtatious, but I just don't like going to a bar and thinking you're going to go home with a total stranger. That's just not who I am.
I don't disagree with that logic. Nowadays, the Nicole me now would tell the younger self that to not make any decisions if I'm under any kind of influence. To be honest, that's Nicole me now. The
Yeah.
Nicole me before would be, okay, I'm purposely getting myself intoxicated so I can feel comfortable enough to see if any guy would even think that. Yeah, because I was very insecure, about myself and about my body. So at this stage, I was just wanting to be wanted, right at that age. So the back then me, Nicole, would have just been like numb and just been whatever. But then when the act would come, it would feel very transactional. It would feel very, you know what I mean? It wouldn't feel good like I would have thought it would have. So it's kind of like for me, drunken sex, it's kind of like out.
Well, and I think you need to also consider that you were vulnerable in needing to attract that connection with people because you didn't feel seen or heard in your home world. Um, but I think the self doubt and the self confidence is normal. Um, Society has told us to focus on how we look, how we perform. Go get a sex book on how to learn all new positions versus just, natural ways in which it's been going on for years, right? Like it's kind of gone from an act of emotion to performance for me.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could say my first sexual encounter, which I should have always known I was going to end up being with, I won't even say that. But anyways, so with mine, it was a kid that I was in school with. But what was looking back at it now, we weren't trying to tell people about it. More so, he was. And did I want to tell the world that somebody was actually attracted to me? Of course. But in that stage of life, was that an option? No, it wasn't. But I could tell that in how that happened, how I just glued to it. But in the actual sexual act, it just, I don't know. It was just so, I'm doing this for this person. So that way I have a connection. They want me. But in it, it was just so different. It was always very, for me, and that could be my Pisces moon and my Scorpio sun, but I've always been very fantasy like in my mind and can really create the stage in here. But creating this stage in here is no different than saying having the attraction to porn and then when you're trying to be intimate with a partner, it not aligning, right? Because there's that fantasy that you've got in your mind and then there's reality of the experience and they're not attuning.
Well,
Now is different though.
yeah. Well,
But back then, that's what kind of my experience was.
well, I think your experience is still kind of valid, but maybe with a different twist. So usually when you're with your partner for the first time, it's always very awkward,
Oh, buddy. Yeah.
right? So you go in with this feeling of I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I've done this before. But then when you're in the act of it, it's almost like what the fuck is happening right now? This feels so weird.
See, I went in the act of it of I actually have no clue what's supposed to happen here.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we all have to go through that at one point.
Right. Oh my God. It was like, I have no clue, like, what's going to happen. This kid's got to lead the way. And I'm letting a kid who learned all of his stuff from porn. You know what I'm saying? But that's the experience. And then after that, that whole summer, it was the woods. We'd meet up in the woods every time. That's what happened. But that's just that's what my sexual experience was. But then I went through a period after moving on. I'm okay with being honest because it's part of my life, but and I'm sure people have all had these timelines, or maybe not, then great. I'm glad that you're more secure yourself. I just wasn't. But I went through a small time period where I had quite a few people that I ended up being with. And that's all that they were. And when I looked back at it, I realized again, it was like a fix. For a moment, I am not thinking about how horrible my life was or what my body looks like. It's like almost numbing the pain.
It's an endorphin. It's an endorphin that gets you elevated to a point where you just feel like you're in such a better space. And then when it's over, reality's back in, right?
Yeah, it felt dirty.
Right.
Just felt.
Yeah. Like, you can't talk about this, right? Like, you want to go out and share this relationship. The guy may not want to. And then you're living in this stage of embarrassment and uncertainty because he continues to call me. We continue to hook up, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
So it played prevalent in the years to come. That would be like the secrecy of sex. So see, look at how we're unraveling as we're all talking here. And it's true though. These were my real lived-in experiences that I had, and I don't think that I'm the only one. You know, I really don't. I think that there's a conversation knowing that us as women or even masculines, like, because the conversations weren't happening, we were self-teaching with people who were learning at the same time. So there's never anything like, horrible that I would ever want to say to any of the people because I know where I was in my experiences. But I just know for me that after each time there was that feeling of filth, that I just felt dirty, that I did the wrong thing, and they were usually like quick whatevers, and I was just like, what? Why? Now when I look at it, like, why were you? Like, what were you trying to achieve here?
And it could be a lot of different things, right? It could be a lot. What I'm really picking up on is the lack of comments tonight. So I'm wondering if those that are in this room are uncomfortable with this conversation. Or Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I saw Brian's response.
No, Brian's was the last one. People are watching. Maybe they're just curious about the conversation because it's not something that we always talk about, But yeah, feel free to comment down below anything. Even how are you receiving this conversation?
I didn't know we were talking about this until 10 minutes before we got on. So come on.
Well, I brought it up last night that we were going to talk about sex tonight.
I blocked it all out after the alien conversation.
Here, Brian's like, I'll send another question. Don't be ridiculous, babe. The goal is, guys, is for all of us in a world where things are so tense and so back and forth. Oh my God.
Oh, Brian.
Technically speaking, I can laugh at this because there are hotels that actually hold parties where this happens.
Yeah. You know what? I had to stay at a hotel when they were redoing the kitchen.
Oh, they forced you, huh?
Right? They were redoing the kitchen. I had one room. My parents were down the hall, and there was a fucking couple having I don't know what kind of sex in the room next to me. I literally got up, knocked on their door, and said, "Could you please stop or keep the noise level down? I'm afraid the bed is gonna come through the fucking wall."
That happened to me and Brian when we stayed in a place for Valentine's Day. It was like, well, what do we fucking expect? And it's like, not this. It was horrible. It was horrific. All you're hearing is banging on the walls everywhere, all over the place. Yeah, Stephanie, could have been filling a void and wanting to feel, absolutely. But it was like during the experience, I was numb. I mean, there was challenging life things that also played into this stuff that I'm very vocal about a lot of things, but some things from my childhood I have not so much here. But I think that also, when I realized later, played a lot into my sexual stuff too. But It's a matter of just being honest with yourself, and what you do got control over is how you can start showing up for yourself. And I know that for me, I wanted to start talking to my partner more and letting my partner know what my needs were. And that was more of, and tell me if you guys can relate, more of during the day actions. Are you caressing my arm? The sweet little nothings, getting the door, you know what I mean? Like touching me in ways that don't mean that
Like a
we're
love
going to lay
language.
it down.
Like a love language.
Yeah, like that's important for me. And also, like a big one for me is being acknowledged for like the things that I do because I love doing very sweet things. Like little, I feel like life happens in the details, and it's those details that people I feel hold on to and cherish. So if those go glazed over, like if my kids and stuff like that, I get butthurt over it for real.
Yeah, and I think when you're starting out with someone, so Nicole, going back to the conversation about the kid in the woods and being
Yeah.
like the first, did you ever stop and think about, and maybe you didn't have these conversations because your situation at home was different, but like my mother would always say, you just want to save yourself for the right person. And I never really understood or agreed with that until it happened and I was like, oh, why did I do this?
I don't ever recall having a conversation ever about any of it. Not about period stuff, not about
Yeah,
nothing.
I figured. But I can remember my mother being in the back of my head and it wasn't really about like religion and like wait till you're married. It was more about make sure you're connected to that person because what that person's taking from you is a forever thing.
Absolutely. There is a part of you that will forever be with these people. That's why I do cord cuttings for a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
because they don't understand why certain things are playing into their current relationship that they've experienced maybe in a past one or from a past person because you carry that with you if you don't clear it, right? So
Yep.
it can and sexual energy is very, very powerful. So Stephanie mentioned about you can still feel numb. It is more of just looking or hoping to feel, and maybe the next time you will get the fix you need. Not you specifically, everyone in general. I can definitely relate to this because I did that with everything at one point or another. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know that this will just, it'll work. I was seeking instant gratification because those moments of feeling good in the household that I was in. Now, keep in mind, I was in that kind of environment where it was very survival based and a lot of chaos going on. So when there was little moments of glimmers, you know what I mean, or hope or peace or what have you, I really strung on to those. And I can see where that created patterns of abuse with a lot of things in my life in that until I could start really acknowledging, recognizing what was happening there.
Yeah, and I would say that what needs to be normalized, and I think a lot of people have gotten better with this, but I think that there's still people who aren't comfortable, is that communicating that your partner does not show a sign of weakness or dysfunction. It's a sign of maturity. So being able to say something like, this is I don't feel safe in this space, or here's what I'm curious about, or I'm not comfortable with this, or here's what I need emotionally, or here's what I need physically. When those conversations don't happen, then you know there's something that's not totally connected
Mm-hmm.
in that space from like I don't want to say from a respect perspective, but if you can't say that to somebody and then be okay with it and respect your boundaries or your needs, I think that's where those red flags start to come up and then people start to kick themselves in the ass and be like, what did I just do? Why did I let that happen? How come he didn't hear me or how come she didn't listen to me? You know, it, that's where those conversations build the trust to bridge that relationship, especially if you start off with sex before you get to know each other.
Right, because communication's very important in being able to, like, if it's a one-off, it's a different story, right? But once you're very, very right. Once you get that, a lot of people feel almost tied in
Mm-hmm.
to want to keep going back to that because they already invested and the communication wasn't there. I have completely been there myself. But now looking back, we can think, okay, what was that teaching me? What were those experiences teaching me? Why was I repeating them? Well, the biggest one was that instant gratification. Another one was, if a guy gave you attention, you were pretty much getting sent out into the world to marry and have children. Like this was kind of where my head was in the Italian household. It was that was your case. And so as soon as I moved out, that's what I was doing. Now, mind you, I never even had a sleepover until I moved 5 states away and I was 19 years old. So this goes to tell you how into my home or secluded from reality or not innocent or ignorant, but like I just didn't, my awareness really wasn't there with the
Well,
world.
and I don't think I had those conversations. I was an only child. My mother was very, like, I don't know. What's the right word to describe my mother? She was very, like, old fashioned.
Yes, I believe it's definitely generational because they were also quieted on
Yeah.
what to talk about and what that looks
I
like.
didn't dare bring it up. And when I did have boyfriends, I didn't bring them around because I didn't want to be given 500 questions because I should know what to do without having been taught by my mother or father what does normal look like.
Right.
And even people, like, I can't help but wonder. I have a girlfriend who was raped when we were in high school. It was a traumatic event for all of us because we were all at the same party. One of us found it actually happening. She was frozen in this state. She wasn't saying anything. So nobody really understood what was going on other than when the word started to spread that so and so were upstairs in the bedroom. Like, one of my girlfriends and I flew up there and knocked on the door and just said, "Kaylee, are you okay?" And when we didn't get an answer, we just went in. And that's when we had to, like, separate them because she just couldn't speak. She was in a state of shock and
It went into freeze mode.
went into freeze mode. And unfortunately, that freeze mode allowed this dude to just keep going because she wasn't saying stop. I don't want this. She couldn't say it. She had no voice in that moment. And I think that we dismiss a lot of those situations because people say, well, she didn't say no. Well,
Right.
did she just lie there like a flat
And then it
board?
goes into shame.
Right, right. And then there's all this stuff you've got to. I remember doing this. Her healing process was so difficult. She would date people. She'd break up when she felt like they were getting too close. She wasn't sure how to explain to somebody what had happened to her. She carried this, like, stigma for the longest time. Um she didn't know she could say no. She didn't know that was an option because in the moment that event took place, she couldn't say no.
And I believe that plays out right now on such a world scale too, is that people are speaking up. And to back with the Aries energy with what's going on there, that's why everybody's speaking up.
Yeah. And she had to learn how to manage relationships at her own pace. And that was really important to her. So she would use us as, like, guys have wingmen. We were her wing girls, but we were more there to protect her. Like, if we saw she was getting uncomfortable or her energy was shifting, PTSD was starting to kick in because she was around guys. It became, just take a deep breath. We're not going to let anything happen to you, but you have to work through this
Right.
because this is something that's going to happen again, but hopefully it'll be with the person you want it to be with.
Right. And you don't want to end up attracting
Right.
in that unfortunate event again because you almost leave a scent in that regard. That sounds, you know what I'm saying? Like,
You got to reclaim yourself.
yeah, well, there are people out there that will pray knowing that that energy is vulnerable and will act again. So when people have said like, "How is this happening to me again?" that energetically, that's a way that that can happen, because it's almost like you've got a big light over your head, like, so yeah, it's beautiful that you guys were able to empower her and navigate her through, because a lot that talking about that back then, yeah, right, communicating about it, then getting mental help or therapy, like those just weren't conversations. It was more like maybe get a medicine to just numb it, right? Or suppress it, not
Suppress it.
talking about it. And
Suppress
I
it.
think that's, yeah, that's why we had a world of addictions happen the way that we
Mhm.
just did.
Yeah.
Because we were all in households that did not communicate about these taboo conversations that we suppress, and in that suppression you end up numbing one way or the other. That's why I feel like everybody has had addictions or something that has had a hold on them due to that, until the spirituality, it's an inner job, you start doing the inner work.
Right. Right. And I could remember for the longest time, she wasn't able to have those conversations with future partners. We would have to come in and kind of have to start a conversation with, like, we used to say, well, we're just coming in to check you out. We want to make sure you're right for Kaylee. But what it was really trying to make sure that whoever she was getting involved with may have the wherewithal and the thought process and the ability to see that what happened to her was a trauma. It was not her fault, and she needs to be handled a little more delicately in order to build trust. And that went on for a couple years until she finally found her soulmate.
And learning the boundaries too, like after an experience like that, it's like, how do we navigate now moving forward with boundaries that I didn't even know I had to set
Mhm.
prior to this incident that happened.
Mhm.
So at first you're kind of just trying to navigate a whole new identity,
Mhm.
because that's definitely a huge layer of grief and a whole new sense of self that's you're gonna step into. And then there's, is everybody looking at me? Does everybody know? Is somebody else going to just try to, like, all of these thoughts? And it can be very, very overwhelming. And even in like what's playing out in society, I believe that women are waking up to the fact that we all, in one way or another, have traumas when it comes to masculines or sexual interactions or something like that. And but it's to a point now where do we forgive and embody, have our protections, have our boundaries, but still find a way to come back too, because the divide is very real out there with men, with the men out there now, and the women with the patriarchal and the matriarchal, which we knew was going to happen. We knew we were going to get to this state, but it's getting very much about where women are now needing to have protections on them, now needing to have somebody walk with them, um, because just our energy alone can kind of shift the masculine, that may not feel so safe. So again, having these conversations, being like what Tina was saying, being with people when you are meeting up with new guys, or anybody that you're meeting up with, so that way you have people who don't have rose colored glasses on that can kind of see what you might miss.
I loved when we used to all have different scenarios where we would be meeting someone new and we'd have a text for, like, a code word for text in the text, just to get the hell out of there somehow. But we used to go out in packs. So if you were meeting someone, if I was going to go out and meet somebody that I don't know tonight, it would have been three of my girlfriends would go to the same restaurant, sit somewhere, and pay attention to what's going on. And the minute they picked up on a vibe, they'd walk over and be like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" They would just take a seat at the table and just start shooting the shit. But that was a more natural way for us, rather than making it a big scene. Um,
Right.
that this isn't what Tina wants. She's not interested. Um, but it's hard because when you when you do know people who have been sexually assaulted and mistreated, and you haven't, it's hard to relate to, because the emotions you had with somebody else were so different that you just can't even imagine. Like, I had a hard time understanding why this chick couldn't say no. I can remember dropping her off that night at home and saying to my other girlfriends in the car, how could she lie there and not eat? She's paralyzed. I said, that scares me. That scares me. It could have been anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it was her. And she was like the boldest of the group. But when it happened, she couldn't react.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can relate in a different sense. So this is where this story doesn't ever get proudly told, because it's like one of those things where it's like, did I ask for it? Okay.
Mhm.
So I was working at a bar. I was newly like a server, dude. Like I was a shit bar, like serving drinks, couldn't figure it out. I think I wasn't even 21 yet. And there was this guy. He said he was from Connecticut. I'm newer, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm originally from Connecticut. This was a hell of a story. And my friend from the East Coast was living with me for a little bit. She had come up, um, and she was working with me. So she was involved with coming with me to hang out with the guy for a little bit or what have you. But when I tell you I walked myself into a trauma experience, I walked myself right into a trauma experience. So once she went off and was off to herself, this guy ended up coming over to the house that I was staying at. Mind you, it was in my sister's basement. I was a kid, whatever. And he was a much older man. And when the sexual actions were happening, I froze. I wanted it to stop. My entire body was like, I didn't want this. What's going on? And I'm not kidding. I went numb, and I tried to focus somewhere else to where he's literally pulling my dead weight body to him.
Mhm.
And I looked at it as I invited this person here, but after that experience, when I tell you I feared because this person now knew where I lived, and I was like, what the hell did I do? I feared for months that this person was going to show up at any time. I ended up telling my sister about it because I was a kid doing an experience like that. So it's like, what do you do there? You know what I mean? How do you even process that there?
It's hard to. I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen till years later, and it may not even happen until your healthy relationship, right? Like you can reflect back where this is what good looks and feels like. This is
Oh man, do I now know?
right. Like
Man.
that's the difference. But I think with Kaylee, she just kept saying like she was in shock for a couple weeks. Like it was you couldn't get her to talk. And I had said to her at one point, Kaylee, you have a voice. You have a voice, you need to use it. You need to use it with at least us because we need to be able to help you navigate this. People were picking up on it left and right. Teachers were calling our parents. Like, what's wrong with the kid? Um,
They were making their own narrative.
yeah, like something's happening at home or but it's interesting because in my 20s I hung around with just guys. I worked with a bunch of guys at a startup company. Best time of my life. They were like my big brothers. So I always felt safe. I always felt like anything I could do anything and they're always gonna have my back. I remember one night we were at a bar in Hamden and Tina got so drunk with one of the girlfriends because we weren't driving. My friend Michael texted me. He's like, "Where are you? We're trying to find you. We're leaving the bar." I'm like, "I left the bar." He's like, "What do you mean you left the bar?" I said, "I left with some people." And I had my girlfriend with me from we were best friends at the time. I don't want to say her name out loud, but we were very close, and her and I were just shit faced going for a ride. We ended up at a college in Rhode Island, continued to party, woke up in the morning, and I called Mike, and I'm like, so I'm in Rhode Island. I think I'm at URI at a frat house. He's like, what? Of course, he was older than me, so he went right to like there was a 10-year difference. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to need a ride. Like, can you come get me? He's like, yeah, I'll come get you, but the whole ride home is going to be me educating you on why you don't get in a car with a bunch of guys you don't know. And I was like, yeah, I know that now, but you also weren't, I turned it around and I said, you also weren't paying attention to me. And that's how I got out. So you can't loosen the leash. But I had guys that were like 6'7", 6'8", that were always surrounded. Like people thought they were my like bodyguards. The bartender used to laugh and be like, "Here she comes. Here come her, and here come the guys." But
have a crew if you need to have a crew, especially if you have that kind of safety. See, I didn't. Mine was really just falling on my face, trying to get it, trying to just connect with anybody and everybody. It didn't matter because I'm a very free spirited person. I raise my kids that love is love. It doesn't choose a gender, and that's how I've always said. Brian happens to be a male, but Brian's not necessarily. If Brian was a female, it wouldn't have made a difference to me if that's who I was meant to be with.
it's yeah, we put a lot of shit on that too. We should probably talk about to let people be free.
Yeah, absolutely. Because free spirited is really important because if we're not living authentically ourselves, then we're living enslaved to somebody else's dream.
Yep.
So you might as well live yours. Okay, we are near the end. I'm glad that we had these conversations. When moving forward in your next intimate experience, try not rushing. Maybe try to like breathe and breathe slow, kind of look into each other's eyes next time that you're having this close intimate moment and just be in the presence of the energy. I did want to do a grounding before. Just know that the choice of your partner does matter. Who you partner with sexually matters because intimacy creates a deep exchange. People leave sexual, see, here it is. People leave sexual experiences with emotional impressions. A respectful partner can support confidence and healing, while a manipulative one can create confusion and energetic drain. So be mindful who you're sharing sheets with. Um, and then trust your nervous system. Your nervous system will show up and let you know, am I in fight, flight, fear, fawn, freeze, or am I safe? Um, okay, now wait, let me try to find
this.
If I can find it. Okay, here's a little mid-show grounding. So end of the show grounding. So just take a minute, sit comfortably, put both feet on the floor. Inhale slowly through your nose. Exhale longer through the mouth. Repeat 3 times and just take this moment for yourself. With your eyes closed, visualize red light beaming at your lower chakra in the pelvis area. And visualize this red light getting bigger and bigger. And now you are enveloped in all this beautiful red light. This is your sexual power. This is your energy source. And as a divine feminine, what you do with this energy is your choice in moving forward. Use this as your power. Breathe it into your life and create with the sexual, beautiful energy that is you. Breathe in one more time. Notice your breath throughout your body. Breathe out any resistance. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and be reminded that you are a badass. Okay. So that's what I wanted to do. Do you have a reflection before I do my final little thing?
I do, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I think it's just a quick reminder that you are not too much. So you are not wrong for having questions about sex. You're not broken for wanting clarity. You are not too much for wanting a connection, safety, or understanding. You are human. Your body is your body is not something to apologize for. Your curiosity is not something to hide. Your boundaries are not something to negotiate. The more we talk about sex with honesty and respect, the more we reclaim our autonomy, our dignity, and our relationship with ourselves. Sex is not taboo, shame is, and you are allowed to step out of it.
Tina,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was
incredible.
incredible. Stephanie said, what a great conversation tonight.
Like
Like, you gave me chills. I
love
loved how you just shared that reflection. Keep those coming every night because I love them.
All right, beautiful souls. Thank you guys again for joining us. Know that if you woke up today, your soul still has purpose on this planet, so you might as well go out and live it authentically true to you. Love and light, beautiful souls. We will be back here tomorrow night for night 19 out of 30. And I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but it'll be interesting. Hope to see you guys there. Love and light, beautiful souls.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.